Yes, I have picked up the telephone line and there is someone on the other end, and his name, interestingly enough, is Dave Warner. Hello, Dave.
How you doing, old son?
Doing very well. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us on Monday Night Live. I guess I should open the batting. That just killed my joke. I was going to say, which was your favourite innings that you ever had playing for Australia? And at which point we then point out you're not that Dave Warner.
Yes. Look, I played many in my mind, Neil. I tell you what I did do, though.
Yes.
I did open for ELO in Perth back in 1978.
Nice.
Prior to the first time we ever toured to the East. Yeah, we actually got a better review than what ELO did. And so the next night we came on, they cut all the lights for us. We had the really basic lights, the old rock and roll story.
Yes. Well, a mate of mine over here who's a pretty well-known radio announcer in this town, I don't know whether you're familiar with the work of Ross Stevenson, he is a massive ELO fan and flew to London to see their last ever concert. And the day before, he got a phone call, a text message saying, "I'm sorry, Jeff Lynne's lost his voice and he's not going to perform." So poor old Ross spent a week in London and missed out, and they haven't rescheduled. So sadly, I don't think we'll ever hear from them again.
Well, this is the trouble. This is the the worries of rock and roll that can happen at any time. Unfortunately,
yes.
There's no certainties, and these days it's so damn expensive. Getting around and staying somewhere, all of that. But he's got the record still probably at home.
Yes, that's right. And unless it's got a proper scratch on it, it's not really a record, is it?
No, exactly. No, you don't want this digital stuff where it doesn't feel lived in.
No, well, I'm sitting in Studio 2 of 94.1 FM 3WBC. There was a guy who used to sit in this chair, a chap called Gavin Carroll, who was a pretty well-known bass player around the traps, and he said to me once, "Neil, if you don't learn anything else about music," and clearly I haven't, you only ever listen to a song on the technology for which it was recorded. So don't listen to the Beatles on anything else but vinyl. Don't listen to Dire Straits on anything except CD, because that's been engineered for that particular variety. And, the old digital downloads, that band that we just featured, that Dave Warner from the Suburbs, digital download or 7-inch record, it's a no-brainer really, isn't it?
Well, it is. And, it's a lot of truth in what he says there. And a lot of times, people are saying that these days you get this stuff, yes, it was. Well, even records that are released now, the vinyl that's released now is generally recorded digitally and then transferred and, into that thing, which is not the same as the original times when you're in there and somebody spilled coffee in the recording machine and the tape had to be, sliced out and trying to marker to work out, where the drummer was out of time or whatever, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But,
so
anyway, time moves on though.
It does, doesn't it? But let's go back. Let's go back in time to 50 years ago. You were an aspiring musician, I suspect, based out of Perth, weren't you, or Fremantle, or that part of the world?
Yep, that's so 50 years ago. This year was the first performances of Dave Warner's from the Suburbs in October of 1976. So I had a band before that, Puss, which was probably Australia's first punk band or punk band of the 70s, if you want. So prior to Sex Pistols and those,
they copied you guys, didn't they?
Those sort of bands.
And what a quaint name, Puss.
Yeah, Puss. Yeah, and I used to smash up guitar, mic stands, and spit on the ceiling, gob on the ceiling, and do all that sort of stuff. And then, lo and behold, it became a lot more popular a year or so later. But I'd moved on from then, Neil, into suburban rock, as I say, and as you say, Dave Warner's from the Suburbs, and the whole idea then was I wanted to make music that reflected the culture that I was, born into and existing in for young people in Australia, which I always called, Laminex table rock, football on Saturday, TV stations, and cruising around to parties, looking for girls who generally rejected you, and that was the life of most suburban boys and probably most suburban girls too.
I'll believe you. Of course, when you're as good looking as I am, Dave, it's not so much of an issue. But and I know this sounds like a really stupid comment because it's still the same distance away. But in those days, Perth was a long, long way away from the rest of Australia, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, yeah, and still is, and it was a massive undertaking. As I said, our first tour in the East was February of 1978. The band formed in late 76 in Perth, and we did well there, and there were people like Michael Gudinski from Mushroom was interested in signing the band. We came over early in 78, and it was to spend 5 or 6 weeks from Perth to here. It was a long flight. It was really expensive, and it was like a lot of bands going overseas, really, for us. You were so far away. And, of course, in those days, no mobile phones or anything. So everything kind of had to be... You tried to set it all up beforehand, but if things went wrong, it was not easy to, dates fell through or promoters didn't come through with the gigs that they promised or whatever. It was lots of... it wasn't fun. We spent a lot of time sleeping on floors and cheap furniture from, I think it was Pabst. Pabst was the place in Pran that we, did I say that right now? Is that how you say it in Melbourne? That we got
you've done pretty well.
Temporary bedding from.
Yeah, nicely done. A lot of people just drop it out and just becomes Paran, as in P-R-A-A-N.
Right.
Paran, that's probably the closest we'll get. And said with very flat A's too, Pran.
Right, well... I'm hoping a few of those people because we've got our 50th this year,
yes.
and this October, and we're playing back in Melbourne at the Memo Music Hall in St Kilda. So I'm hoping people from Victoria come in and say hello, especially if they have seen us before and back in those times, come and relive those times and the music that I've been doing through the last 50 years. So I haven't stopped playing. I've still been playing, but you don't hear so much from me as that time, and so we'll be doing plenty of tracks from that sort of late 70s period, but right through to current day, or almost current day, when I've been recording and playing tunes.
And I guess the good folks who grew up in and around Paran, it's not a long way to go to St Kilda. They could walk there and walk home.
Yeah, exactly.
Or stagger home, as the case may be. But without wishing to divert our attention from you for a moment, isn't the Memo Music Hall just a ripper, attracting some amazing acts at the moment?
Oh, look, I've never even been there, but all my friends said, look, if you're coming to Melbourne, that's the place for you to play. And I think for our vintage acts and the kind of level that we're at, we're not a mega act, but I think people obviously enjoy it because everyone spoke highly about it to me, and people were really pleased that we were playing this. It'll be the first time we've played there, and as you say, everyone seems to have a really positive vibe about it. So I'm looking forward to a big night, October 17.
Last weekend, I saw Gina Jeffries, and I'm going to run strife here. I can tell it's late in the day. Jay O'Shea, Brooke McClymont, Adam Eckersley, Mark O'Shea, and Rod McCormick. They've got this thing called the Country Love Tour at the moment, and they also played. They played at the Memo. I know Melinda Schneider's played there in recent times. They even had Billy Field. We hadn't heard from Billy for 40 years, and suddenly popped up at the Memo Music Hall. So, obviously, is the place to go.
It's great to have venues like that you can play at and that people like going to.
Well, I guess the thing is, without being disrespectful to any of those, they're not going to draw a 10,000 person crowd, are they? They're going to draw a crowd of people like you and me who just love really good Aussie music, and to have somewhere, I don't know how much it holds. I've not actually been there myself, but gee, I tell you what's attracting some good acts.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's the point. And, same with the suburbs. Unfortunately, we're not going to drag 10,000 people there. But
yet.
It's
yet. I mean, there's this
like
interview.
That.
This interview might get up close to 10,000.
Well, it could get us up to 9,500.
Or
not. The intimacy of playing in those things. I mean, artists love it, and the audience love it. And, I've always really enjoyed seeing acts in, smaller, more intimate venues. I've never really enjoyed big concerts that much. I find my brain is going to all other sorts of places. Oh, what time am I going to get the train home?
Yeah. Well, probably one of the last concerts I went to was the opportunity that I had to sing with Paul McCartney. I don't know whether I told you I sang with Paul McCartney.
No.
There were 70,000 others singing at the same time, but you know, we're all sitting in the crowd singing "Let It Be." There's something special about doing that with 70,000 people. But as you say,
well, I was really lucky. It was a historical moment, and Tony Durant and myself, we had a couple of we've got a couple of very, very good fans from Perth, the Olivers, and they were planning to come to Sydney, but then they had a clash and couldn't do it, and they had bought tickets for the concert, so they gave us their tickets, which were really good, and we got to see Paul Turner. That's those sorts of things are a historical event, aren't they? Which,
Absolutely.
Of course, the suburbs will be too, because
undoubtedly.
I doubt that we'll ever get together. We certainly won't get together for the next 50 years, but I don't think we'll get together in the numbers that we have for this one either. So, it'll be a pretty special event.
17th of October, if people want tickets, where can they find them?
Via the Mimo Music Hall, or if you go online, go onto my website at davewarner.com.au. That'll direct you to where to go. Or Mimo Music Hall, on their homepage, they will direct you to those tickets. And we would love to see some people who used to come to those great venues that we used to play at: Martinis, the Prospect Hill, Bombay Rock,
the Donny Inn,
Bananas. All those great Victorian venues.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just can't wait to see some puzzled-looking cricket supporters going to that website and thinking, that's funny, he sings now. That's incredible. Okay, now that's only part of the story. The other part of the story is that you haven't been sitting around twiddling your thumbs. You found yourself in front of a keyboard and wrote yourself a book or 10.
Yeah, I've done a lot of books now. I've done 15 crime novels now. The latest one was my 15th crime novel. That's Sound Mind, Dead Body. But I've done about 10 non-fiction books as well, quite a few on musical sports, which are great passions of mine as well. But the latest one came out in April, and it's been really well received. I was a little bit surprised because most of my books, I was probably one of the early people doing outback noir, quite hard-edged type of police procedural or detective story. But for this one, I decided I'd always wanted to do one like Agatha Christie. So this is 1929, set in England, with an Australian detective who's going to solve everything, but very different style. And I wasn't sure whether my fans would like it or not, but reaction's been really positive, and so been extremely pleased with that, and already planning the second one of Fred Willits, my detective.
I'm so disappointed his name's Fred, not Shagger, but that's okay. Of course, I don't know whether you know or not, but I published my second book about 3 weeks ago. And
well done.
Thank you very much. Sales are up in the teens. We haven't sold a lot. But, anyone can write a book, but not everyone can win prizes like you have. So you've been pretty successful at the Caper.
Well, yeah. Look, I do think it's one of those things that people say, but just to do it for someone who wants to write something is, I think that's an achievement in itself. And so many things determine whether you win prizes or sell heaps of books. Who's your publisher? What sort of shows? Not everyone can get on a show like this, Neil, where you know that you're going to get across to the multitude.
Absolutely, both of the listeners are probably going to buy it.
So there's all those sorts of things too, but that was great. I won the Ned Kelly Award back a few years ago for Australian crime fiction, which was great, and the WA Premier's Award I won for my first crime novel. That's more than, it's nearly 30 years. It is 30 years now, I think. 1995, 96.
So you wrote that as part of your Year 10 education, did you? He said, being very smooth.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, it just gets scary, I've got to say.
Yes.
I wish it was part of the current course for Year 10 education. It'd be a very fine book, I must say.
I wonder how that happens. I wonder how you get on to the education list. I wonder whether you need to know the Minister for Education or whether there's something more creative than that.
Well, I think they do have people who look and choose what is relevant for schools in each of the states and stuff. And in fact, one of my old schoolmates, I believe, from Perth, was in there, and he never put one of my books on the school reading lists, even though I think he was in a position to do that. So, it's very, very poor, I think.
You didn't knock off his play lunch once, did you? And he's paying you back.
No.
Not you
We used
remember.
to swap books when we were youngsters, so that was a very poor effort of his.
Yeah,
But he is a
disappointing.
Dockers supporter, and they're probably full of themselves at the moment, even
do you
though they
think?
lost on the weekend.
Yeah,
so,
do you think? Yeah. Of course, fortunately, we aren't. We're humble supporters of our clubs. He said, gloating about the last two premierships, one of which was against one of your clubs. One of which was against your club, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I went to that 2024 grand final. Usually I'm pretty good. I have a fairly good kind of detector, and I'd chosen well in which Swans grand finals I'd gone to and which ones I'd missed. And in that one, I thought it was 50-50, but maybe a little bit more even than that in the Swans' favour before the game, of course. And then halfway through the first quarter, I was thinking, well, where's the bar? That's going to be the best place to be for the next couple of hours.
Well,
So, yes, well done, but I don't know what will happen this year. I think Fremantle, big chance. And I don't know, it's always, Brisbane, if they get there, they've been there now, they'll have that confidence.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it's that whole you got to lose one to win one kind of thing. And if by some miracle we do happen to win the three, it's going to be probably the closest anyone's gone to winning four in a row, because of course there was that very, let's call it, contentious decision in the last minute of the 2023 that probably should have been brought back as a free kick. But if your auntie had a moustache, Dave, she'd be your uncle, wouldn't she?
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, look, however it turns out, we Swans fans are still smarting over 2016. Don't worry about that. We're
Yes.
still, none of those umpires have been forgotten by people up in Sydney.
But that must be one of the great things about being a Swans supporter, as much as it was for Collingwood supporters in the late part of the last century. You've got so many grand final losses to mull over. You're spoilt for choice, aren't you? Really?
Well, look, let's not be cruel. We did have 2005 and 2012, and as I say, 2016, I think there should be an asterisk next to that one. But I will concede we were well beaten in 14, 22, and 24,
Yeah.
and certainly, 24 was disappointing, for Swan supporters, because no real excuse there. 22 were a young side coming up against Geelong, who was seasoned and ready, but 24 we should have done better. But anyway, if they do make it this year, I'm not too sure that they will, but if they do, we'll see if they've learned anything.
Well, you've got better chance than 16 others if you make it to the grand final.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, your 2005 coach, two things about him. One, he was fortunate enough to play in a game of football in the same team as me at Donvale High School.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and played for Beverly Hills Junior Football Club, which is a pretty famous football club in this part of the world, because it's produced people like Mark Murphy. Christian Petrarca played there. Obviously, Roosie. Mark Browning played there for a little while. There's been some really big names come out of that club. Isaac Quainer, who's my nephew, he played at Beverly Hills as well. So that's the first thing you need to know. And the second thing is, without wanting to drive people away from listening to 94.1 FM 3WBC on Wednesday, I believe the boy Paul Roos will be the guest on the Channel 7 show The Front Bar.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, he's a good fella, Roosie.
He's a good fella. Well, he's Donvale High School boy. Loyal and true.
And no doubt he'll acknowledge the contribution that you made to his career. And
I'd be very disappointed if he didn't. I'd be very, very disappointed if he... It might happen during the ad break. Sometimes they miss bits that are important, but we'll see how we go. Dave Warner, it is always good fun to have a chat to you. I'm hoping that you and I might shake hands on the 17th of October if I get the chance to get to the Memo Music Hall. If people want to get to that event, go to the Memo Music Hall or Dave Warner, not David Warner, Dave, D-A-V-E, warner.com.au. Buy some tickets, because tickets are going fast. And if you want to buy your new book, Sound, Mind, Dead Body, have I got that in the right order?
That's right. You've got it perfect.
Thank you very much,
my friend.
And it's not even written down in front of me.
Appreciate it.
No, and get on and have a look, because I haven't read all of your 15 books. I'm too busy writing my own. But the ones I've read are really engaging. And the really good thing is, one of the things I find with a lot of novels I don't read a lot of novels, but when I do, you go, oh, yeah, I can kind of imagine what it must be like in Saskatchewan or, the northern hills of England. This is, set in Fremantle or set in, Sydney or something. It's places we recognise, and it's really good stuff. So thank you for being part of the program, Dave. And
absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
I'm always having somebody on. We are going to hear a bit of Bonnie Tyler, and we'll be back really soon. That was Dave Warner.